Witness News at 4 continues.
Welcome back, everyone. President Biden is now heading back home to Washington, D.C. after a three-day trip to Poland and Ukraine. The visit comes as Russia's invasion of Ukraine is about to enter its second year. Joining us now to tell us more is Jon Decker, our Channel 3 White House correspondent. And John, as always, we appreciate you being with us. First off, this trip by President Biden, definitely a surprise to Ukraine. Even the First Lady kept in the dark until the very few minutes before he took that flight. What do you think White House officials have to think about this surprise trip?
Well, I've spoken to White House officials right here in Warsaw, Poland, about that trip. And some of those officials who I speak to every day, very senior level, they didn't even know about this surprise trip, which was months in the planning. The White House now looking back on what happened on Monday when President Biden arrived in Kyiv, met with President Zelensky, walked the cities of Kyiv, and also made remarks in which the U.S. once again pledged its support for the foreseeable future to Ukraine, is looking back on this visit as extremely successful. It sent a very important message to Ukraine, the Ukraine military, its people. It also sent a very important message, Aaron, to Russian President Vladimir Putin as well.
The president also made a pretty passionate speech in Warsaw last night. What reaction are we getting from that speech by the president?
I attended that speech, Aaron, and I thought it was one of the best speeches that President Biden has delivered during the course of his presidency. It was, to me, a moment. It was a moment for President Biden in that there were 30,000 people from all around the neighboring Warsaw area, dignitaries who came to hear this speech. And as a result, it was one of the largest crowds that ever turned out for a speech given by President Biden in his entire presidency. The White House very pleased with the way things went. The message that was delivered, the message being that NATO is unified. NATO remains unified. There are no fissures in the NATO defense alliance, and that NATO will continue to provide whatever Ukraine needs as it relates to military aid, military equipment, humanitarian aid for the foreseeable future, as President Biden put it, not only in Ukraine, but also here in Warsaw, as long as it takes.
John, the president also speaking today to a number of NATO countries in the eastern flank there. And this is just one day after Putin announced the suspension of Russia's last remaining nuclear treaty with the U.S. Has the White House reacted to that so far?
Yes, President Biden was asked about that just before that meeting went into closed session. He said it was a big mistake by Russia, a big mistake by President Putin. I also had an opportunity to speak to a very senior official on the White House National Security Council last night, and he told me that they're not surprised, but they also point out that Russia has suspended their participation in this particular nuclear arms treaty. They haven't essentially withdrawn from the treaty altogether. They also point out Russia has cheated on this treaty for a number of years. They have not complied with this particular treaty known as the New START Treaty. It was signed over 10 years ago by President Obama.
A successful trip, but much more to come. Jon Decker, our Channel 3 White House correspondent in Poland for us. As always, thank you so much.